Welcome to Side Effects with an A. When effect is normally used, it's a noun. It's already occurred.
Effect is a verb meaning action. Action influences outcomes.
I'm Scott McGohan.
And I'm Anne-Marie Singleton. We will provoke you to think differently.
Side Effects, where problems are defined, solutions exposed. Welcome back to Side Effects. I'm Scott McGohan.
And I'm Anne-Marie Singleton.
We have a guest with us today, a shareholder, McGohan Brabender, Dave Homan.
Hey.
Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
How's your week going?
It's going. Getting ready for a crazy weekend.
What do you have going on this weekend?
Going down to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. I coach a 12U baseball team, and we're in a big Midwestern tournament. So it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and I heard you've got kind of a crazy weekend.
We do. So we've got a weekend full of soccer, my daughter's school play, and then we'll repeat the weekend full of soccer the next weekend and my kids' confirmation. So spring is a busy time for people in general, and especially people with kids.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. So last week we had Matt McNeil, who talked to us about generational thinking. And my kids are all grown up and they're out of the house.
Right, and you're getting ready. I know I say this every time, but any day now you'll have a grandbaby.
I know I don't feel like I'm going to be a grandfather, but apparently I am.
Any day. Yeah, I was worried last week maybe she might go into labor. You were out of town, right, at the Dayton Development Coalition fly-in in Washington?
Yeah, myself and Sarah Skeena. Last year, you and Steve Hoff went.
Yeah, how was that this year?
It was terrific. I mean, one is being around 105 leaders in Dayton, talking about economic growth. It's terrific news for Dayton, Ohio, and the hard work of the DDC and a lot of members, where Dayton was just awarded the National Archives for the Veterans Affairs for the VA, which is terrific news for us, jobs. And obviously met with a lot of legislators, a lot of people. And, at the end of the day, we can make a difference.
Yeah, I think that it's easy to forget that when you don't get outside of the region. But thanks for doing that. And for those of you listening that have never had an opportunity or haven't been able to take part in that fly-in, I did just encourage you to take a look at it. It's a great way for you to connect with the leaders in Washington and also in our community. So thanks for doing that.
Well, we even had some high school students with us this year. We had them last year, and talking about generational thinking. It was very interesting for them too.
Yeah. So Dave, your kids are grade school to high school and all high school.
Yeah, 16, 14, 12, and 8.
Okay. Oh, so you've got a little bit of time yet before they're all in high school.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking?
I have no idea. Well, you can see we kind of took a break between the third and the fourth. Do we really want to do this? And
you coach a lot. So your kids play football?
Football, wrestling, soccer, volleyball, and basketball.
Okay,
so
you got
we're in
covered.
everything. I have 1 week off a year because I coach all the different sports. So I always have 1 week off during the year, and then it's right back into things.
As a dad too, I mean, those are memories that no one will ever be able to take away from you. And so, congratulations on wanting to do that and having a desire to want to coach. And I've even talked to friends in the community, and you have a big impact on kids. So, that's a big deal.
Well, thanks. When I retire or I win the lottery, I will coach youth sports even into my old age. I think that's where you learn your values. You get the foundation about working with others, about being part of something bigger than yourself. And so I'm absolutely passionate about youth sports.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really awesome. We appreciate that. I love when my kids have great coaches because it helps. Everyone always says it takes a village. It does take a village to raise kids, especially today. So I have just a question for you. We're going to talk about communication here in just a minute, but I'd like to know how you use what you know about communication to deal with the parents and the kids and the referees. As a coach, I mean, you have to deal with so many different communication styles and PS right in the middle of something that's very emotional.
Yeah. So I've taken a lot of what I do on a daily basis into coaching, and you be very transparent with both the children and the parents. You set expectations right up front. When you have to correct a child, or teach them something. It's a positive followed by a here's where we can improve, and then you show them what the end result looks like. Um, and it's just a lot of continuous dialogue back and forth. It's building them up. It's not telling them what to do, but encouraging them to see the bigger goal that's out there.
And that doesn't sound too unlike what we do every day, right, with our employers.
It's a huge part of what we do every day.
Yeah, we just want to get people engaged and enthusiastic about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So no, that's really interesting. Very interesting.
So I want to tell you guys, I was listening to something on the radio actually this past week, and what I heard is that AMC, that's a movie theater company, the CEO of AMC is trying to attract what he calls a younger crowd, and he's considering allowing texting during the movies. And I was listening to a radio show where they were having callers call in and give their opinion on whether or not they think that would be okay. Should people be allowed to text during a movie? And I don't know if it was supposed to be an interactive experience or just, allowed to be on your phone. And there were young folks that called in their 20s, and there was a woman while I was listening that called in probably in her 50s. And the young people that called in, I would call them old souls. They said, I paid a lot of money to go to that movie and I don't want to be disrupted. And the woman who called in her 50s said, I don't know why young people can't learn to communicate correctly. Why do they have to text? Why can't they just turn the phone off and do what they're supposed to do? And I just laughed because for those of you that listen regularly, I have 14-year-old twins. Their phone is their lifeline. Everything that goes on is in that phone. It drives me up a wall. And I say all those dumb things too, like turn that phone off. Your life's not in the phone. But I found that interesting because the CEO is losing sales, right? Young people aren't buying a ticket because they're willing to wait for the movie to come out and watch it on Netflix or on their phone or on their tablet. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, they can text. No, it's really interesting. I mean, I went to a movie with my son. We went to see Revenant, which was a cold movie. But there was a couple right next to me, and one, not only were they texting, they were talking the entire time, and it was driving me nuts. I mean, I come from the generation where I can remember people smoking in a movie theater.
Well, you're not that old. Maybe your dad told you that story.
No, I was sitting there. I'll never forget it. And it's different. It really is.
So, Dave, I mean, in your work, how many ways are people communicating at one time nowadays?
Well, it's funny because I've been here since 2003 and in charge of communication. And when I started out here, it was essentially one way of communicating with people, and that was through benefit booklets. And then during open enrollment meetings, we would have PowerPoints, and I always used to call it death by PowerPoint because just 60 minutes, the most mind-numbing experience you can go through as an employee. And then we started getting a little more creative, a little more personalized with total compensation statements, personalized benefit websites, multimedia videos, wizards that are out there that you can play with, and interactive calculators, and to really where we are today. And the challenge that I still see employers and McGohan Brabender alike is that we're communicating in a million different ways to employees, but we're not getting them to do what we want them to do.
Well, the message still isn't being heard.
Yeah, it's certainly not for a lack of effort. It's for, looking at the results. Are they enrolling in a disease management program? Are they switching from a PPO plan to a high deductible plan? Are we getting them to use telemedicine and pricing transparency services? And so we have spent a considerable amount of time here and back in my department thinking of ways that we can get to the why. Because we certainly have addressed to this point, I think we would all agree, the what we want to communicate, what we need to communicate. And now we've gotten creative in recent years with the how we communicate. And that goes to the generations. Do they want texting? Do they want email? Do we want face-to-face meetings? It's all different. What we now are turning our attention to, and where we're seeing the next big generation, which is we've cracked the nut now, we've solved what we believe the problem is we're focused on the why people change, why they're motivated, why we get them to do what we want them to.
So what's interesting too is, when you talk about that, so generational thinking, some are like just technoholics. So I can't survive without my phone. Some people are readers, like I like to read it. Some people need to experience that, so they need to get their hands busy. And so I think we've done a really good job of unpacking the differences in people based on generations. So this new terms come out, and every time we hear it in the walls of McGohan Brabender and with our customers and different people, I mean, their first reaction is like, what is that? So, Dave, you spent a lot of time meeting with these people about the term psychographics. So we understand generationally where we might put a booklet in front of someone's hand, we might put an app in someone's hand, we might text information to them. And so we've unpacked that in regards to communication. But what is psychographics and how can that help?
Yeah.
Us?
Yeah, and first of all, when you do say psychographics, you get that, huh? What? It kind of sounds like something the CIA cooked up in the back room.
Yeah, I'm expecting like a movie with
Yeah.
a lot of like what was that movie? Fantasia. That's what I'm expecting when you say psychographics. Something assaulting my eyeballs.
No, and actually, psychographics has been around for years and years, but we think of it in a different application. Psychographics is things that help you identify the internal characteristics that make people do and change how they do it and why they do it. Where it looks at the characteristics, it looks at how they're wired, what their priorities are, their MO for doing things. It looks at their lifestyle. It takes all those things into consideration. And where you are most likely to find psychographics has been in consumer products
Right.
for years and years. And where we first heard about this was from a couple of ex Procter and Gamble people that spent well over a decade in research and development. And I think that we would all agree that nobody's better at consumer product research and understanding the consumer better than Procter and Gamble.
Right. I would agree.
And so what they do is, they've made a science to know that it has to do with not just what the product is, but where it's placed on the shelf, what color the packaging is, where it's placed in the store, what days of the week you promote it, when people make their buying decisions, the size of the packaging. All of those different things go into
size,
psychographics.
so size matters, Dave.
So yes. Well,
Okay, just checking.
yeah. I have nothing to say. So now let's pick up that from consumer products and let's move it over into healthcare and think about all the different applications now. So we're communicating one message about benefits, about what's going on, about what they need to do. But it's getting lost in translation because we're all motivated by different things. If I have kids and a family, I have different priorities if I'm on the go. If I'm a marathon runner, a person that takes care of all my preventive work, I'm wired differently from that person. There are other people that just say, tell me what to do from point A to point B to point C and I'll do it. So we're all wired differently. Psychographics allows us to look at each person's personality and determine what the best way is to communicate that message.
Yeah, so I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I have my own little social experiment going on in my house. You had it growing up too, Scott. So I have twins, and my kids are the same age, and I do the same thing out of desperation. They hear the same message, like, get ready for school, hurry up, we're leaving in 5 minutes. I say the same thing over and over. They both respond differently. And so I learned very early on that what I say to my son isn't what I can say to my daughter. So they're the same age. It's not a generational thing at this point. It's a Zachary versus Zoe thing. They react differently to my message. And what I could say to my daughter, and she might say, okay, Mom, I could say to my son, and he would, get angry, or vice versa. So it's getting at that hard wiring, which is a gold mine in terms of getting your message heard.
Well, I think what's interesting, too, is like retail, they've been collecting this data for decades. I mean, shelf space, end caps, colors of packages. And what was in it when we were in Washington, D.C., Robert McDonald, who was the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, who was just who came from P&G. Actually, he was the CEO of P&G, and he spoke to us. So you have all of these organizations across the country that collect all of this data around purchasing patterns and what engages people. So I think what we're able to do, at least from this organization, is say, how do we use that? How do we use that data, that information, in a brand new way to try to get people more engaged, obviously, in their health?
So it sounds complicated, Dave.
Well, it actually is, and you at a first glance, you need to hear it a couple times, then it sinks in, and then it makes absolutely perfect sense. So we can take all those different data points that we have that Scott just talked about with consumer products. We know the patterns, and how you're wired is how you're wired. And what we can do is ask all of an employee population 12 basic questions about their health care. Now, those 12 questions come from 380 questions that have been compartmentalized and watered down. But from those 12 basic questions about your health care, I put you through Psychographics in one of 5 different buckets. Once I know what bucket you're in, it's game over, because I know how you're wired. I know how you like to be communicated with. I know how many times I need to communicate with you to get you to do what I want you to do. Once I know what those 5 buckets are, I know exactly how to phrase my messaging to you.
Do you pick specific words to resonate with that person?
There are words I use. There are words I avoid. There's urgency that I create in my tone and tenor.
Yeah. So Scott and I've tested ourselves, right? And we're two different. What do you call us?
Consumer classifications.
Psychos.
It's like 2 different psychos.
Yeah, 2 different psychos.
So
Yeah.
I'm a balance seeker, and Scott, you're
I'm a self-achiever.
okay.
Yeah.
So how you communicate to me, Dave, would be different than you communicate to Scott.
Absolutely. So you've just heard 2 of the buckets. So when we go through them, and first of all, as I give you these buckets, it's important to have everybody understand that it's not a negative label. It's just the way that you approach things in life, what motivates you. And so the 5 classifications we have are balance seekers, willful endurers, priority jugglers, self-achievers, and direction takers. Now, when you look at those different classifications, Scott, you said that you were a self-achiever, right?
Correct.
Okay, so self-achievers, which, if you're wondering, is about a quarter of your employee population, 24%. And from Scott's perspective, if I would look inside his brain, scary place to go, but what
Really
I would
scary.
see is I would kind of see his personality being one that I take ownership of my health and I actively take steps to be healthy. He focuses on achievements, goals, and objectives that are out there. A disease is something that's just a challenge in front of him. Your self-achievers are the segment of your population that sign up for your wellness programs. They're the first people when you have challenges to step up, because everything's a game and a competition to them. They're the ones in your organization that you tend to not have to worry about. They're self-managing their health that's out there. Now, you said that you were
I'm a balance seeker.
Okay, balance seekers is about 18% of the population. In Anne Marie's eyes, she's open to ideas and options as long as they make sense. So she needs context to understand the ideas and recommendations. So I can tell Anne Marie that she needs to participate in a particular program or sign up for the HSA plan instead of the traditional PPO plan, but I need to give her examples and explain why. It's kind of the show me before I do it.
Yeah, the prove it to me. So anyone listening that knows me is probably laughing, because that's how I make decisions.
Yes.
I need information. I want to weigh my options. I want to see which is more valuable.
Yeah.
So I took it over and over to see if that was really who I was, and it is. So
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting, Dave, is this information is already out there. So big retailers have this information.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I had heard is we can actually go get that information by zip code, by address, by person, with about an 80% accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely, now that's purchasing decisions. So I'm buying something. So obviously Amazon's collecting a lot of information. I mean, all of these organizations are collecting all this data to try to get us to buy something. So people like you do this, just a variety of different faceplates, the attractiveness of the website. So I think what was really great about this organization, they specifically are just harnessed inside of healthcare.
Right.
So how do we
Yes.
make a difference? How do we unpack these 5 different psychographics? We have a pretty good understanding in regards to generational thinking. So where are you? Which one are you?
I am a priority juggler. I worry more about my family's health than my own. I'm constantly on the go, juggling many responsibilities. And so getting sick for me isn't an option. I'm always looking for the quick out. I love telemedicine because I can be on Starbucks, on a webcast, and be taking care of my health at the same time. I'm looking for quick solutions. I love online enrollment because I don't have to sit in an open enrollment meeting for an hour. I can self-navigate, I can do research. And so priority jugglers are about 18%. And in my eyes, balance seekers and priority jugglers are very close. That's usually where they'll spill over from one bucket to the other if they're on a fence. Willful endurers, they're 27% of your population. They are the hardest in the world. I don't say they're your problem cases, but they're the people that if you can get to them, they're the hardest to change. But if you can get to them, it's the biggest change organizationally. In their eyes, there are more important things in their life to focus on and improving health. They live in the here and now. They're the people that put off the illness until it reaches that point where if I don't take care of this, I'm going to end up in the ER. Many times that's where they're treated. They're the people that will not sign up for programs until they have higher premiums.
They sound stubborn.
Yes.
Yeah, they sound very stubborn. And then the last one is what? Direction takers.
Direction takers, they're the smallest segment of the population. They're the ones that we would love to have all direction takers because they trust the physician, the healthcare professional, HR, and you tell them what to do and we'll do it. And then we'll be happy.
You know, it's funny you say that because yesterday I wasn't feeling well, so I called Teladoc. And this doctor, called me back, within probably 3 minutes of the conversation. So I kind of explained the symptoms. And then he said this to me. He said, look, I can't determine on the phone whether you have strep throat or whether you have something or the flu. And I'd love to help you, but I can't. So I'm going to ask you to go to the doctor, which I was like,
That is not what you
one, I didn't want to call Teladoc in the first place. My wife said, hey, your daughter's pregnant. And if you're sick, you're not going to the hospital. You're not going to be able to hold the baby. So I'm like, wow. So now I have to go because I'm kind of like you.
Yeah.
Now I have to go do this.
Yeah. And if you were a priority juggler or even a balance seeker where it's kind of prove it, I would play that card in a minute. I would say you're not going to be able to be there for your daughter's birth. You're not going to do this, but show them what the end result looks like.
So in other words, my wife understands psychographics. She knew what to tell me to get me to do what I needed to do.
She's got her PhD in Scott.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's lived with you a long time.
Yeah.
There's a really big place in heaven for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gigantic.
It's the penthouse.
Yeah, it is. It's big.
So once we know what buckets you're in now we can tailor our messaging to you. Now kind of look back when we do that one open enrollment meeting with that one PowerPoint or that one benefit booklet, that's written in the voice of that person that's putting the communication together. So they're really only appealing to that one segment that is like-minded like them. Think about in the future, once we know this, and instead of having one meeting 20 times, if you're a larger organization, you have a couple meetings with 5, you're delivering the exact same message, but the way you're delivering it is very different.
Dave, that's fascinating. So in other words, if Anne Marie was going to do an employee meeting or if I was going to put together a slide deck for 100 people, I'm going to build it because I care about people. My motives are going to be pure. My intentions are going to be great. But based on my presentation skills and my psychographics, I'm going to only hit 24% of the population. Anne's going to hit 18% of the population.
Yeah.
So this strategy allows us to take that information and unpack it 5 different ways.
You think about, why has social media grown at the pace it's grown in such a short period of time, more than any other communication medium we've had before? Because it allows individualized, personalized communication where people go out and self-select who they want to talk to, what type of content they want. It's kind of a self-serve.
It's all based on preferences.
And that's where I want to say HR and benefits really needs to embrace that, as opposed to pushing off social media.
So let me
It
give
can
you
be powerful.
some feedback on what I hear from employers sometimes, okay? So I'll hear this from the C-suite, from the owners, and sometimes from HR. Like, it's the employee's responsibility to get the information. We gave it to them. Why didn't they understand it? Okay, part 1. Part 2 is, why do I have to create 5 messages for my workforce? I don't want a handhold. We hear that so often. And so what I think I hear you saying, and I want you to tell me, is this is actually going to be simpler and easier than the old way. And on principle, I think employers are saying, I'm not gonna bend to them. I don't want to have to bend down and do this.
Well, certainly, in order to make this work, it has to be very simple to lift and implement. And that's why we've known here at McGohan Brabender about this for a while, but we've been slow and deliberate in our rollout because it needs to be scalable and applicable regardless of group size or environment that you're in. And the good news is we feel like we're very close and we have a vehicle for that. And what's important is that we're able to effectively reach the person in the way that they need to be reached, and not just that we're going through the motions. I hear day in and day out from employers, they're reaching the point where it's utter frustration. You ask them what one of their biggest challenges is with benefits, and it's not just about the cost, and it's not about the ACA side of things. I ask them and they say employee disengagement is one of their biggest challenges. And so we've come up with a vehicle where we can easily roll something like this out, whether it be text messaging, whether it be email, voicemails, depending on how you want to be communicated. We can tell all these things from these 5 buckets that you're in.
And the 12 questions.
And it's easy to roll out. And we don't have to address 20 different things to make a change within your benefit program. What we need to do is focus in on the 1, 2, or 3 things that will bring about change within your group, and that's where we concentrate our efforts.
Yeah, so I would encourage employers to just think about it differently. Think about what you're trying to accomplish, not how you're going to accomplish it. Because again, I think there's a lot of resistance in, this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way we're going to always do it. Or we don't have time for multiple messaging, or why can't employees take their own responsibility? So I know that, I say these things too, but we have to really say, okay, look, it's 2016. People want to be communicated to differently. They've been given options through social media. They've been given options through other means, and this is how it is. So it's not 1980 or 1990 or even 2000. It's 2016, and we're gonna have to communicate differently if we want our message heard.
And I think it's even bigger than that, because from 30,000 feet you can look at this and say, not only generationally is do we have a better understanding of people, but with psychographics, and we're just talking about employee communication and engagement in regards to the health plan. But if you're an organization that would embrace this, you have the luxury of using this outside of healthcare. So performance reviews, the way you communicate with your people, the way you communicate with your customers, the way you communicate with prospects. It can go so much higher than that. And companies like P&G, companies like GE, large organizations are using that data today, and we have the power to offer that to our clients.
Yes, absolutely. Scott, you really hit it on point when you said you can take this and apply it outside of benefits. So when you're having a performance review or a tough conversation with an employee, knowing what words to use, what words to avoid, what motivates them, how to get them to do what you want them to, putting together group projects within your organization, charting a career path, because it's so easy for us to fall into a generational channel saying, all of my millennials think this
Great
and
point.
want this.
Great point.
And Mark talked about that the other day. But when you look at Mark, we can kind of take that.
Or
Mark,
Matt.
I'm sorry. Oh,
That's
man.
okay.
I feel terrible about that. But we can we can look at him and say, well, Matt's different than I've got an intern in my department, Tessa. They're both millennials, but I can tell you from looking and talking and engaging with them, they're wired two very
Completely different. And Jordan, Ann and I were on the
Yes.
phone with Jordan, or actually we were in the car with Jordan,
Right.
talking to her about generationally thinking, and we didn't like unpack psychographics with her. But our conversation with Matt, in my opinion, Ann, would have been completely different than Jordan.
Right. I agree. And I think they don't want to be treated as a lump of people. They don't. And we talked about the fact that they're going to be a very large part of the workforce here in a very short amount of time. And so it's important that employers start to figure this out. They're spending a lot of money on benefits. And again, they can use this in other parts of their organization outside of us. But finding a way to get your message heard is huge.
Yeah, and I think really, I mean, we're stepping outside of this world of trying to motivate people. We're stepping into this world of influence people based on what they think, where their desires are, aspirationally where they want to be. There's, we're just about ready to wrap up, but you can go to healthierbirthdays.com. You can find Dave has put together just a great piece, kind of unpacking psychographics. But I was watching Good Morning America this morning, and there is a video of a grandmother. She might be in her 70s. Her grandson bought a Tesla that auto drives. So she's in the front seat of the car, and the car's driving itself, and she is losing her mind. It is absolutely hysterical listening to this young guy talk to his grandma about it's okay, and she's in the front seat of the car, and it is absolutely hysterical. You'll get a kick out of it.
We'll have to try to find that and get that up on the
that'd be
blog
great.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other thing I'll put up there too is we're out of time, but the proof is in the results. And there are a few case studies that I'll post out there where you can see that it has made exponential improvement organizationally as far as getting people to engage programs. The programs are the exact same. Simply by changing the way you get people to engage them has made huge, huge financial impact changes within an organization, organizational health changes. So I will be sure to post that
Yeah,
out
and
there.
Well,
Dave's like a mad scientist, and we are all his test subjects. So he
Yes.
is experimenting on us regularly.
Yeah.
So somebody help. No. If you have anything you want to give us for feedback, you can email me at ann@healthierbirthdays.com.
Or Scott at healthierbirthdays.com. One of our aspirational gifts and wishes is to provoke people to think differently. And I hope we've provoked you to think differently today about psychographics. Dave, thanks for being with
Thanks,
us.
Dave.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening and opening your mind. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach us at scott@healthierbirthdays.com.
Or Ann@healthierbirthdays.com. We hope you'll join us next time
On Side Effects.